Deonte Banks. That is the name. That is the pressure point. First, Russell Wilson's future is being questioned. Then, the secondary picture gets tighter. And then, the one that changes everything. Heavy.com predicts the Giants could cut a former first-round pick. By the end of this video, you will know whether Big Blue is entering a real roster reset. Lock in. Because when a team starts talking about cutting a former first-rounder, that is not just a roster move. That is a warning shot. It says the front office may be done waiting. It says pedigree, draft night hype, and old expectations no longer protect anybody. Real talk before we dive in. Eagles fans love acting like the NFC East belongs to them. Cowboys fans never stop talking. Commanders fans think one good wave means a takeover. If you want a channel built by Big Blue, for Big Blue, hit subscribe right now. Every sub is a flag planted at MetLife Stadium. Comment, "Let's go Giants," and let the rivals see it. Now let's get to story one, because the first signal is not even about a corner. It is about the quarterback room conversation around Russell Wilson. And before anybody twists this, hear me clearly. Jackson Dart is the current Giants starting quarterback. Daniel Jones is no longer on this team. This is not a Daniel Jones discussion, and it is not a fake quarterback controversy. This is about what outside criticism of Wilson's future tells us. It tells us the Giants are evaluating hard truths everywhere. Here is where the reset theme starts. Outside criticism around Russell Wilson's future is not just noise. It fits the larger pattern around this team. The Giants are no longer in a place where reputation gets automatic safety. That matters. Wilson's name carries history. It carries attention. It carries a bigger football conversation than most backup or veteran quarterback names ever would. But inside this Giants discussion, the point is not nostalgia. The point is whether every spot on this roster is being measured against the future New York is trying to build. And again, Jackson Dart is the starting quarterback. That matters because it frames Wilson's future differently. This is not about replacing the starter. This is about whether the Giants are willing to look at every role, every veteran, every old assumption, and ask one hard question. Does this still fit? That is the edge of the story. The criticism around Wilson adds to the sense that New York is not handing out comfort anymore. If the Giants are serious about turning the roster into something John Harbaugh can shape, then every player has to live in the same world. Star name, draft name, veteran name, it does not matter. Fit matters. Production matters. Direction matters. And when those three things become the standard, the roster starts getting uncomfortable fast. Now, here is the truth nobody is telling you. This is not really a Russell Wilson story by itself. It is a culture story. It shows the Giants are being discussed as a team facing hard evaluations across the board, not just at one position. That is the difference between watching any channel and watching this one. Personal opinion here. I think this is healthy for Big Blue. Not because every veteran should be pushed out, but because the Giants have spent too long living off hope and labels. If a player fits the plan, keep him. If he does not, move forward. Disagree? Drop your reasoning below. But wait, because story 2 gets closer to the real pressure point. The secondary is where this conversation starts turning from general roster talk into something specific. And when Deonte Banks becomes a key figure in that conversation, everything gets sharper. Because first-round status is powerful, until it is not. Now, what most channels miss is this. The Giants' possible secondary changes are not just about shuffling names. They are about whether Deonte Banks is still being treated like a protected investment, or whether he is being treated like a player who has to earn his place all over again. That is a huge difference. Banks being a key figure in the secondary discussion tells you where the temperature is rising. When a team evaluates its defensive backfield, it is not only checking depth. It is checking trust. It is checking reliability. It is checking whether the players who were supposed to become pillars are actually forcing the team to build around them. And that is where the tension lives. A former first-round pick comes into the league with expectations already attached. Fans remember the draft slot. The front office remembers the investment. Coaches remember the projection. But once the reset begins, those memories stop carrying the weight they used to carry. That is exactly why this Banks conversation matters. The Giants are not just asking whether the secondary can improve. They are asking whether the old hierarchy still applies. If Banks is a key figure in possible changes, then the secondary is no longer being treated like a fixed picture. It is being treated like a live competition. And Big Blue needed that. Because the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders are not waiting for the Giants to feel comfortable. They are attacking weaknesses. They are hunting hesitation. They are forcing New York to decide whether this defense is built on trust or built on names. Film does not lie. When a team starts reassessing the secondary around a former first-rounder, the message is bigger than one player. That is chess, not checkers. I will say it, and I know this will split the room. In my opinion, putting Banks under real pressure is the best thing the Giants can do for him and for the roster. Protection creates comfort. Competition creates answers. Tell me I am wrong. Now I want your take. Comment reset if draft status should not protect anyone. Comment patience if first-rounders deserve more time. No middle ground. Quick reminder, if you are still here, you are Big Blue. Hit subscribe, because story 3 is the real one. What is coming next is the story that ties Wilson, Banks, and the entire roster plan together. This is the moment where a prediction becomes a warning. And if Heavy.com is right, the Giants may be closer to a hard cut than people want to admit. Stay with me. The bomb is next. Now, this is what you really came for. The story that flips everything is not simply that one player could be moved off the roster. The story is what that kind of prediction says about the direction of the New York Giants. Because when Heavy.com predicts the Giants could cut a former first-round pick, the message is loud. Not traded. Not quietly hidden. Cut. That word hits different. A former first-rounder is supposed to be part of the foundation. That player is supposed to represent planning, scouting, investment, and patience. So when the conversation reaches the point where a cut is on the table in a public prediction, it tells you the evaluation has crossed into a different zone. This is no longer about waiting for the draft label to become production. This is about whether the Giants are ready to admit that status cannot outweigh reality. And that is why this story is the strongest one. The main question is simple. Are the Giants reaching the point where draft status no longer protects underperforming players? My answer is yes. And I do not think this is a small shift. I think this is the beginning of the roster reset New York has needed. Connect it back to story 1. The Russell Wilson criticism shows that even recognizable names are not immune from the future conversation. Connect it to story 2. Deonte Banks being a key figure in possible secondary changes shows that even high draft investment is not untouchable. Now connect both to the Heavy.com prediction. You get one picture. The Giants are moving toward a harder standard. That standard says the jersey matters more than the resume. It says MetLife Stadium is not a museum for old expectations. It says John Harbaugh's Giants cannot be built on what players were supposed to become. They have to be built on what players are proving they are. That is New York tough. That is G-Men football. And that is how a real reset starts. Now, let's be fair without being soft. A prediction is not an official decision. The brief says the Giants could cut a former first-round pick. It does not say the move has already happened. It does not name a final transaction. It does not say the front office has made the last call. But the fact that this conversation is even centered on a former first-round pick tells you everything. The Giants are being viewed through a sharper lens now. The roster is not being discussed as a patient development project. It is being discussed as a group facing hard truths. That is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Because bad teams keep protecting the idea of a player. Serious teams evaluate the player in front of them. That is the line. And if the Giants cross that line, the entire locker room feels it. Not in a fake dramatic way. In a real professional way. Every player understands the message. Draft slot will not save you. Hype will not save you. Old plans will not save you. You either fit the future, or the future moves without you. I am going on record right now. In my opinion, cutting a former first-rounder, if the Giants believe the performance does not match the plan, would be the clearest culture reset move of this entire offseason. Not the easiest. The clearest. Half of you are nodding. Half want to fight me. Comment which half you are in. Now you have your answer to the question I asked earlier. Comment your answer. Reset or patience. If this analysis hit, like the video. That is how we keep the algorithm pushing real Big Blue breakdowns instead of lazy rival noise. 3 stories. 1 picture. Here is what it all means together. The Giants are no longer being framed as a team waiting for old labels to pay off. They are being framed as a team deciding who belongs in the next version of Big Blue. Russell Wilson's future criticism points to veteran evaluation. Deonte Banks and the secondary watch point to position room pressure. The Heavy.com prediction points to the biggest message of all. Draft status is losing its shield. That matters inside the division. The Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders all want the Giants stuck in hesitation. They want New York clinging to names, waiting too long, and protecting players because of where they were picked. But a serious Giants reset does the opposite. It forces clarity. It forces urgency. It forces players to prove they are part of the answer. Listen, The next breakdown is going deeper into the roster reset question. Which Giants position group is most likely to change if this hard standard becomes real? If you are Big Blue for real, subscribe now and hit the bell. You need that video because this roster conversation is not slowing down. YouTube does not always send the next upload unless you are locked in, so do it now. Drop your final answer below, reset, or patience. And if you already commented, let's go Giants, good. That is the flag. That is Big Blue Nation showing the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders that this channel is not neutral territory. This is G-Men territory. But listen closely. One decision is still pending. How far the Giants are willing to take this reset. Talking about hard standards is one thing. Actually applying them to a former first-round pick is another. That answer will tell us who this team really is. And the division is watching. The Eagles are watching. The Cowboys are watching. The Commanders are watching. They want the Giants to blink, protect the old plan, and keep waiting. I do not think John Harbaugh's Giants can afford that. Big Blue, the battle is here. Subscribe, stay locked, and let's go Giants. We ride together.